class, let's have a little bit of a discussion about puberty. That's always fun. Try to remember what it was like for you. So puberty is the time between the first onrush of hormones and full adult physical development. It typically lasts anywhere from 3 to 5 years. About 4 years is pretty typical. And this is the time when children become physically like adults. Now, is everything absolutely complete in that time? No. Do some people continue to grow into their early 20s? Yes. Is the brain completely done? No, not until age 25. And of course, psychosocial maturity will not be complete at that time either. I thought I would show you some fun pictures. This is on the left here, you see my son Ethan with his dad. They're going on a camping trip. His dad is a professor of philosophy here at TCC as well. And he's 10, and you can see what a child he is. And fast forward 2 years later, also a camping trip in the fall. And not only do you see how much physical development has occurred, I think that you see the psychosocial development that has happened as well. His whole manner, his stance, his approach to the world goes sort of from I'm going camping with my dad to I've got my spear and I'm gonna, I don't know what he thought he was going to do with that spear, but he's feeling quite aggressive. The testosterone is clearly rising in him. This is my daughter Hannah. The transformation was not quite as strong for her from 9.5 to 11.5. And I did 10 and 12 for Ethan because 10 is the age of the first onrush of hormones. It happens in boys at age 10. It happens at about 9.5 in girls. Of course, there's variation here. I think Hannah was probably about 6 months behind. So I should probably put a 10-year picture up here. But anyway, here's Hannah at 9.5 before her hormones start to rise. Still very much a child, a little dorky child. And then you can see at age 12, you can see the physical development as well as the psychosocial development as well. So puberty consists of 2 changes. First of all, you've got just increases in height and weight, fat and muscle content, but the other part of this is the changes in the reproductive organs so that the child becomes sexually mature. And this includes secondary sex characteristics such as body and facial hair and growth of breasts. There are 2 types of sexual maturation that happens. Number 1 is the primary sex characteristics, which is your organs of reproduction. So when the penis gets bigger in a boy, or the vagina also gets bigger in a girl, or the ovaries mature, or the testes mature, those are primary sex characteristics. The secondary sex characteristics are the ones that indicate that there's maturation happening, but it's not directly linked to reproduction. So in girls, this is things like breast development and width of the pelvis and width of the hips. Breasts are necessary for feeding, but they are not necessary for reproduction, so they are secondary. In boys, secondary sex characteristics include facial hair and broadening of shoulders. And these occur in a pretty predictable sequence for boys and girls. During that growth spurt, females can gain as much as 15 pounds a year and boys can gain 17 pounds. But of course, as you probably remember from late elementary school and middle school years, girls begin that growth spurt about 2 years before boys do. So we have this lovely time between the ages of about 11 and 14 where girls are taller than boys because girls will start a height spurt at 11, peak at 12, and reach mature stature around age 15. Boys begin at that height spurt at age 13, peak at 14, and reach mature stature around 17. Those growth spurts are going to be sudden and uneven, but there are some predictable things about them. First of all, we grow from our extremities to our core. So kids will have a time, if you see their foot suddenly grow really, really big, then you know that that is the first step and that height will come later. My daughter at age 12, her feet are currently bigger than mine, but she is considerably shorter than I am, and that's this growth from extremities to core. The head, hands, and feet will grow first, with trunk and shoulders last. One of the wonderful things that happens in puberty is that there's something that actually gets smaller, and that is the tonsils and the adenoids. So if you've struggled with strep throat all your life as a child, then in adolescence this typically becomes lesser. The tonsils and adenoids are basically like beacons or I don't know, satellite dishes for infections. They catch the infection. So when they grow smaller, then kids get less infections. And of course, there are skin and hair changes. Our skin becomes oily, and our hair becomes coarser and darker. Just think about a child, a very young child that you know, and how their hair is almost downy and super soft. It becomes more coarse and dark as they grow older. The order in which growth happens is, first of all, we get a body fat spurt, and then we get our height, and then we get muscles, and then we get organs. This is really, really important information to know, because when you see your kid kind of chunk out, as I tended to call it with my own children, right around 10 to 12 is kind of when this happens. They get a little bit chunkier. That's fine. That is nothing to be concerned about. They're supposed to do that, and they will lean out later when they get their height spurt. Muscles and organs will come later, and again, this is important because if you've got an athlete, they might look like they have the body of an adult because they've had their body fat spurt and their height spurt, but their muscles and lungs and heart are not quite ready for that same kind of work. All right, that's the end of that. We'll see you in the next round.